Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the next installment of Texas RE's Reliability 101 and 201 webinar series. Today, we'll be going over an introduction to Align and the SEL with our Align Program Coordinator and Enforcement Analyst, Tammy Thomas. Before we get started, however, we have just a few things to go over. First, as always, which you can see up on your screen right now, is our antitrust admonition. I will spare you listening to me read the entire thing, but will remind you, as usual, that if you have any questions, that you can contact our general counsel. As I mentioned, this is but one of many installments of our Reliability 101 and 201 webinar series, the rest of which you can see up on this calendar. We've got one more this week, for the week after that, to the week after that, because on Juneteenth, which is June 19th, we will be closed. And then on the final week, we've got one on the 24th and then a double header on the 25th. So if you haven't gotten registered for that second one on the 25th, which is a new edition, be sure to catch that. And Texas RE realizes that attending all of these is a time commitment. We appreciate your time and would like to remind our audience that if you would like credit for any sort of internal training programs that you might have, you can email us at information@texasre.org and we will send you a letter of confirmation that you have attended. There are a number of other events going on throughout the ERO. NERC continues to hold their GADS wind and solar template and application training. That training event is going to run through the month of July. There's a bunch of sessions. You can follow the link on this presentation to get there and see all of them. On June 10th, Reliability First is having a technical talk with Reliability First, and that is going to be on SIP lessons learned as well as their summer readiness discussion. So if you live in that area, make sure to catch that. And then MRO has a regional summer assessment of their own that they will be holding on June 27th. As I mentioned to those of you who got here early, we will be using Slido for the questions and answers portion at the end of this presentation. So if you've got any questions, you can sign into Slido at sli.do or slido.com, and you can enter today's participant code, which is TXRE. You can also use the QR code on the right hand of your screen. And folks, if you have any comments about the 101s and 201s in general, you can also enter them into there, and we will take note of those. So I've talked quite enough. Tammy, I will turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Thad. Hi, everybody. Thad, can we go to the next slide, please? So we are going to be talking about Align and SEL today. I wanted to thank all of you for coming here today and joining us. The main things that we're going to be talking about are going to be about permissions and access, platform details with a little bit like of a hint of what you'll see when you get in there, and support and the future changes that we should be expecting or seeing come for Align and SEL. Next slide, please. So to start off, let's just go over a little bit of a basic of what is Align. Align is an ERO enterprise common platform. It was developed by the entirety of the ERO to make it a standardized and consistent interface for not only regions, but also entities. This way, if you have to communicate with multiple regions, you can stay in the same system and not have to remember so many passwords. So let's continue onward. Next slide, please. The other side of this program is it's paired with the ERO SEL. The SEL is an highly secure, isolated, encrypted environment. It is there for you to upload any of your documents and evidence that you need to communicate with the regions. Once those documents are uploaded, they will be subject to the file destruction policies. Next slide, please. So once we know what those two are, let's talk about how we can get to getting those access for those. The first thing you need to know is that gaining access starts with your ERO portal account. Once you have your ERO portal account, your PCC or primary compliance contacts will be the ones who can manage your access for your organization using the ERO portal. And then once the PCC approves your request for access, especially for Align, users will automatically be given access for the SEL submitters role as well. New PCCs, when you are designated, you will automatically get the highest levels of access for Align and SEL both. Next slide, please. A little bit about the ERO portal for any of you who are new to it. There are ways for you to register. It is using that registration button that is circled in red. It's a standardized registration, no hidden gems of questions, so it's just going to ask you normal things. You can also, if you already have the account, you can sign in. And of course, if you forget your password, the forgot password and username button is immediately available. Please keep in mind that any submitter access changes may take up to 24 hours to take effect. Next slide, please. For the different permission roles within Align, there are 3 main permission roles for Align. And depending on how you use Align and how you go about it, you'll want to make sure that your permissions adhere to what you need to do for your job. So the first level is called the Align Registration Entity Reader role. The reader role is very much what it sounds like. You're able to access the Align system, but you're only able to read the things that already exist within that system without being able to edit or add. The next level is the editor role. The editor role can, of course, read, but they can also edit anything pre-existing in the Align system. That means that the last one is going to be the submitter role. The submitter role has the power of reading, editing, and creating new things within the Align platform. These are usually the ones that are the PCCs for your entities. Next slide, please. For the ERO SEL, it's a little bit more easy. It is just a standardized submitting role. All PCCs and users that have the submitter role for Align will actually get that submitter role for SEL automatically. They're paired. So when you get those it does it for you. Now, in the event the PCC changes, once you get your PCC designated, the PCC will also automatically get those roles. So they'll get the submitter role and the SEL submitter role. So keep that in mind. You don't have to go through too many hoops in order to get that done. In the instance where you need a staff member to gain access to the SEL, and maybe they're just an editor or they are a reader in Align, so they don't get it automatically. You'll end up using the NERC help desk ticket. After submitting that ticket, during submitting that ticket, I would suggest that you attach an email that has your PCC approval saying that, yes, this person is allowed to do things in the SEL, to upload to the SEL. Next slide, please. So once you have access or once you have permissions for the Align, we need to know where to click in order to actually open up the system. It's very simple. It is your ERO portal. Once you're in the ERO portal, you'll be able to find the Align link. You can copy paste that Align link into your browser and it will pop up with similar to the picture that you see here on this slide, a little hexagon that's I don't know, teal, that you can click on that says Align for Entities. Please keep in mind that the browsers are, for the browser, the only limitation that you have is the Internet Explorer is no longer supported. So you wouldn't want to use Internet Explorer. Next slide, please. For the SEL, it is also very simple. It is the ERO portal once again. It has the link. You copy paste it, make sure you're not using Internet Explorer, and you will get to the SEL upload site. If you don't have access to your ERO portal, but you still want to be able to update or upload your SEL evidence, you can always go to NERC's Registration Entities SEL Portal User Guide. It's on their training. Inside that guide is actually the link to SEL as well. Next slide, please. So once you get access to these two programs, let's take a look inside. First off, we'll look at Align. When you first open up Align, you're going to see your My Align dashboard and task landing page. This is a place where you will be able to look up at the top left-hand corner, do a drop down to see multiple tabs that you can, or modules that you can open. This is supposed to, or it is organized in such a way that you'll be able to find what you're looking for. Like if you wanted to do a self-report and self-log, you would click on self-reports and self-logs. And then also underneath on that page, that initial page, you'll see your My Tasks. That's kind of like your to-do list if you have anything. Next slide, please. Speaking of the self-reports and self-logs, if you want to enter in self-report, self-log, you would go here. As you can see, there are hyperlinks within the Align system. You can click on them. They will take you to new pages. They will give you more information. There's also little buttons that have like a magnifying glass that will allow you to get a little bit more of an information on what's going on. If you don't have access to certain things, it's not going to let you click on it. So for instance, if your entity is not registered to do self-logs, it's not going to give you the self-log options. You don't have to worry about taking a wrong step there. Next slide, please. Also, another view that you can see is our mitigation milestones. Here you can see kind of generally what most pages look like once you're inside a page within Align. There usually will be comment boxes that you can choose to add comments. There will be ability to assign it to people depending on who is in your industry or in your entity, sorry. And then at the very bottom, you'll see that there's usually a green button that says a save an action. That save an action will pair with the drop-down box where you either say submit or delete or anything else that might be there that you need to action. That's just a way to make sure you don't accidentally click on something before you're ready. Next slide, please. Another one that you'll see quite often is our request for informations. Requests for informations are done through the compliance process and the enforcement process. You'll see that there will usually be respondent comments. You'll be able to upload to the SEL. The evidence that you'll see here is a subcat or an area in the middle of the screen that gives you not only the SEL link if you don't want to go to your ERO portal to find it, and it will give you your reference ID, which is kind of like the key that helps us to get your evidence to the right folder. And then, as you can see, this one also has a save in action button that you can use. Next slide, please. Now, when using your SEL, SEL is a system that actually auto-classifies, secures, and creates subfolders with metadata in it. It's all part of that SEL reference ID that I mentioned before. When you upload to the SEL, you will receive a notification for your submission. That's when you're going to get a evidence manifest email. I'll explain a little bit more about that. That is an email that will include an Excel file. The Excel file will tell you everything you've uploaded for that moment and the timestamp of when you did it. A lot of my entities like to save that information so they know what they have given and what they haven't given to the entity. Please keep in mind, whenever you upload to the files, those files are now going to be custodianed by the region, so they are not editable by the entity at that time. There are options for entities, any registered entities that do not wish to use the SEL. They would rather use a self-built SEL. There are requirements and standards that need to be adhered to for that self-built SEL. That information can be found on NERC's website, as you can see the link on my PowerPoint. But you can also talk to your Texas RE's Align Program Coordinator, which is me. So anytime you have any questions about that, you can always talk to me about it. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned before that when you're looking at the ERO SEL, there are ways that you upload your documents. These documents are not a thing that you can do for all documents. Keep in mind that some of them are allowed and some of them are not. Obviously, the most popular documents like Word, Excel, PDF, JPEG, PowerPoints are all allowed. The ones that aren't allowed are going to be more like your zip files and things that compress in order to upload. Embedded files, like if you were going to embed like an SEL, a Excel file inside like a Word document, we do not recommend that you do this. It's actually harder to communicate with your region on where to find that document, because then you have to remember which document it's embedded into. So it's harder to give the right address for us to look it up. File sizes for uploading to the SEL. A single file needs to be no more than 1 gigabyte. Multiple files can be up to 10 gigabytes. And the number of files that you can upload at any given point in time is going to be 20 files per upload, as long as it is under the 10 gigabyte max. The SEL reference ID that you will be receiving usually within Align or from your region directly will look similar to what you see on the screen here. This is what actually gives the information for the metadata in the upload and gets it to the right folder. So make sure you're not typing it wrong. I usually suggest to copy paste it whenever possible. And then of course the evidence manifests. The evidence manifests you always get, and they have that reference ID and the date stamp in there as well. Once you do that, you can save that information and keep it for your records. Next slide, please. So, support for these platforms. The first line of support is always going to be to do some research. There are trainings that you can do. Trainings that you can do with it at the NERC web site. It has the NERC systems trainings. It'll have all the training resources. But if at any given point in time that training does not answer your questions, or you're having an issue where it is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, you'll submit something called a NERC help desk ticket, also known as a footprints. It goes to the first level, it goes to Texas RE. If we can answer any of those questions or resolve the issue, we will do so. It will then go to NERC if we need to escalate, for them to do specific permissions or adjustments in the system. And then if at any given point we run into a system limitation where we need to address that limitation of a system-wide limitation, it will go to the developers for their support. Next slide, please. How to enter a footprints ticket. So once you've entered a footprints ticket, the main two questions that I get all the time is what should I do for the service and what should I enter in for the category? The service is usually going to be ERO Enterprise Applications, and then the category is going to just either be Align for entities or it's going to be the Secure Evidence Locker. Then you'll have your subcategory. Choose the best fit for your subcategory. When you are doing a description, some of the best things that you can do in Align issues is to give a location of where you are at in Align, such as using that drop down that I showed at the very beginning in the top left-hand corner. You can say, I'm on self-reports and self-logs. And then you would tell maybe like the tab that you're on so that they can go and see it for themselves. The back end is much different from the front end, so it's very helpful for you to give them that information. For the SEL, if you're putting in information for that, some of the best things that you can put in for the SEL, if your upload is not going the way that you hoped it would, is a timestamp of that SEL errors, because they can look that up. You can also do a detailed description of the file that you're trying to upload. Like, what is it? Like, is it a PDF or a Word document? What's the size of it? How many not gigs, but megabytes, hopefully it is. And that way they can get more information about that and get that sent in. The other one that you would want to include as well is probably your reference string that you got from Align, to make sure that that's correct so that they can double check that information. And of course, at any given point in time when you're doing a footprints help ticket, it is always a good idea to do a screenshot. There's no better way to say a bunch of words within just an image. Next slide, please. Once you do your help desk footprint ticket, you will always receive a notification. This notification is an email. It looks something similar to what you see here on your screen. This is actually your direct line of communication with your technician. Your technician at one point or another will be contacting you, either to say it's fixed or tell me more. When they do that, you can reply to the email and let them know either A, it's resolved, or B, here's your answer to your questions. And next slide, please. So I mentioned before that there was training and information resources. One of the ones that I told you about was the Align page that has all of the information about the training, and it will have the SEL guide. That site actually also has all the training material that they have for every release of Align. Releases are basically like updates because Align didn't happen all at once. It also has a lot of entity side videos. Those videos are fantastic. They're well presented, and they get across the idea of what does it feel like to be in Align and how to maneuver within that system. Texas RE also has a website for the Align page. A lot of times this website will link to NERC, since they are the gurus of Align. And then also Texas RE does a lot of newsletters and any other meetings or workshops as well. So you're always welcome to join those. Next slide, please. Now, Align also has the ability to grow. As any other program does, it needs to be updated. It needs to meet the requirements of any changes that we make in our industry. Going forward, NERC is using something called the governance model. It is created by communicating through many different groups. Two of the main groups is the OLT and the Align user group, the AUG. I am actually a member of the AUG. There is AUG members for all regions, and there are entity representatives within the AUG. That way we can get everyone's standpoint. So if you have something that you want changed or you think could work better, you can always communicate with me, and I would be happy to present your concerns and suggestions to the AUG group so that we can keep improving the Align and SEL systems so that it becomes the best tool that we can use in the industry. Next slide, please. So, as Thad stated before, I am Tammy Thomas. I am not just an enforcement analyst, but I am the Align program coordinator here at Texas RE. Here on the screen, you can see my email. You can email me whenever you'd like if you have any questions. You can also, if you need to, email the enforcement group at Texas RE, which is the enforcement@texasre.org. Since I'm an enforcement analyst, I look at that email all the time, and some of my coworkers look at that email. So if they ever need to contact me or take care of it, if I'm out sick, you can do it that way too. Next slide, please. Questions. Now, I know that we had one question in Slido already, or it's been added to it. It was, yes, why are zip files not allowed? So I mentioned before that zip files are not allowed within the SEL. One, it is a security risk. It's a very big security risk when you're dealing with zip files. I don't know all the details about that. That's usually the realms of my SIP guys, but it is a security risk. Not only that, it is very hard to pinpoint what's inside a zip file and actually find it within the system. It is restricted. It's not going to let you. It will give you an error if you try to do the zip files. Any other questions? Oh. Okay, Align only lets you submit a self-log for the current standards and requirements. What is the suggestion for when an entity needs to submit a previous standard and requirement version, especially when the requirement language changed significantly? We are aware of this. It was actually a decision made by the ERO to run Align this way. When you run into that problem, I would just put it in your description that the standard and requirement that you initially found this issue under is the previous standard and requirement. Our enforcement analysts or our enforcement reviewers will be able to look at those standards and requirements and link them back.
Great, Tammy. We don't see any more questions just yet, but folks, there's still time. Join us at slido.com. Use the code TXRE if you've got any more questions about Align. But as Tammy indicated, if you think of any questions tonight, you're rolling around in bed thinking, oh, gee, I wish I'd asked that. Enforcement@texasre.org is definitely a winner, and so is information@texasre.org, both of which will get you in touch with a subject matter expert. Now, Tammy, I can stall for probably a couple of minutes more, but if you've got any closing comments that are more substantive that people might like to hear better than me rambling, the floor is yours.
I just want to reiterate that the Align and SEL system is here for us to be able to communicate between regions, entities, and NERC in a harmonious way. So if there are any times that we feel like the systems are not being as harmonious as they can, the only way we can get that done is for you all to let me know, and I will raise those suggestions and opportunities to NERC. We want the system to be as well made as possible, and it's going to always continue to grow and evolve with our needs in our industry.
Well said. And we still don't have any more questions. So folks, thank you again for joining us. Tammy, thank you for presenting to us. And our next Reliability 101 session is going to be tomorrow, and that is going to be on the risk-based approach to reliability. We hope to see you there.